I have a question for AI. For those of you that are interested in what ChatGPT told me about AI, it said that it can't give opinions, but it effectively said advancements in automation and artificial intelligence technologies may lead to increased automation of routine tasks, allowing humans to focus on more complex and creative work. This could result in a shift in job roles and require upskilling or reskilling to adapt to new demands. Hello everyone, my name is James, and for the past couple of months I've been trying to keep my head in the sand and ignoring it for as long as possible, but it's just no longer possible to ignore. AI is everywhere.
And one of the biggest topics of the moment, artificial intelligence.
Well, a group of top experts and CEOs in the field of artificial intelligence have signed a statement warning of the risks of AI.
I'm talking instead about artificial intelligence, which has quickly become a godsend for students, a headache for schools and universities, and a lightning rod for political controversy.
So I only first really used ChatGPT a few weeks ago when I was playing around with it just to see how it would answer one of my exam questions, and I was shocked to see how well it answered and how quickly it got all the relevant information. And I've been using it ever since as sort of a tool for gathering information really quickly to help me answer bits of questions and to practice my revision. Don't worry, I haven't copied and pasted answers that AI has generated straight into my exams. That would not be a good idea. And to be honest, I'm really not sure how AI will shape the future of work. So what I decided to do was just go onto the internet, YouTube, use ChatGPT as well, to find the biggest sort of tech CEOs who are responsible for this area to see what they say about what the future could be, what the dangers are, what the positives could be. Let's start with the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, and there's a really good NBC interview that I'll be showing you clips from, where he starts by talking a little bit about how AI might affect jobs in the future.
Do you think there's going to be more jobs in the end when this is over, or less?
Great question, right? So here's the fundamental thing I think about. That lump of labor fallacy, as the economists call it, right? At least it's been disproven up to now, right? Every time there's been new technology, there's been real displacement, and it's a real challenge. I at least fall into that camp, right? So let's think about this, that there will be new jobs. Who would have thought that there will be a prompt engineer, right? But it is a job. And by the way, you don't have to have a CS degree to be a prompt engineer.
A prompt engineer being somebody who literally prompts it by saying, please do XYZ.
So that's just one example.
And that's going to be a job.
That's going to be a job, for sure. And the job, as I said, like here's the other thing, right? As we speak, one of the things that's most exciting to me is we have 100 million software developers in GitHub today. With this coding assistance now that we have with Copilot, I think there can be 1 billion developers. In fact, the world needs 1 billion developers, because if you look at the number of every company is a software company, they need more software developers. So the idea that this is actually a democratizing tool to make access to new technology and access to new knowledge easier, so that the ramp up on the learning curve is easier, that's one. Second thing is frontline workers. One of the most exciting things for me is somebody who is in the front line in a factory, in retail, in healthcare, can literally sketch up an app they want and take a photograph and have it build it, right? So think about that. Like you are now an IT person as long as you have some domain expertise.
One other question that was very interesting that was asked of him was, what scares him about AI?
What scares me the most is what I'll call it societal choices do we make given this new technology. This is not like, sometimes I feel like some of the times all the technology is talking to other technology. I think the fact that we have to make political and cultural and societal decisions that help us get the balance right, which is we definitely want the benefits of this technology and we want to mitigate the unintended consequences. The leadership that's required and the coming together of all the parties that is required is challenging, but it has to be done. And that's what scares me. And also that's why I think a broad engagement, right? This is not about the experts in AI talking to themselves and scaring each other in the world. It's more about the entire society having a good civil dialogue on how to both maximize the opportunity and mitigate the dangers.
Another important voice in this discussion is the CEO of OpenAI, who obviously do ChatGPT, called Sam Altman. But before I show you what he says, if you're enjoying this video, then I'd really appreciate if you consider subscribing. Thank you so much. Anyway, he was asking a question about how AI might affect small businesses. He talked about the capability of AI and how we've always assumed that it could never do creative work. But see what he says.
If you look at the prediction from maybe 10 years ago, maybe even 5, I think most experts would have said, first AI comes for physical labor. It's going to drive trucks, it's going to work in factories. Then it comes from the sort of easier parts of cognitive labor. Then it comes from the stuff that's really hard. Maybe it can be, maybe it can write computer code someday, maybe not. And then maybe someday in the distant future, but probably never, it can do creative work. And of course, it's gone the exact opposite direction. Almost everybody predicted this wrong. But the fact that it can do this sort of creativity and the fact that it can use code to verify things actually gives me hope that we may have an AI that can do science before we have that factory robot that we can do everything else. So I think intuitions here are just difficult.
Another interesting question was, what does Sam think are the positive potential future things that AI could do for us?
It's a little bit exhausting having to always talk about only the downsides and not to get to talk about the upsides too. And I don't want to make light of the downsides because I think they're incredibly serious, but we have a lot of people doing great work to figure out how we're going to successfully mitigate them. The reason that this is all happening, the reason that we're having this debate, the reason that people love this stuff, and they love it because it's providing them real utility. And that doesn't come along too often. We don't get like a real new tool in the toolbox that fundamentally reshapes what we're capable of doing that often. Maybe the cell phone was the last one. I think this will be bigger than that, but it will at least be of similar magnitude. And I think the way we get to this awesome outcome is to unleash the creative power of the world. And I think it's really happening. I think at this point, it's much more of a don't screw it up than we have to get it launched. It took us a long time at OpenAI to figure out something that was going to work before we got to this sort of language model world, which was only 4 years ago that we figured that out. We had a lot of like dead ends or bad paths. The field did too. AI winter is sort of this joke because it always was the AI winter. But now I think like the revolution is launched and people are going to figure out how to integrate this into many aspects of society and significantly improve what we do. I'm so excited about everything happening. I like watching how kids use, like when I was a kid, we used to just go down these Wikipedia rabbit holes. And you did eventually learn what you were trying to learn, but it was like kind of a long and painful, but very interesting process. And now you just ask a language model and it teaches you whatever you want and you ask follow-up questions. And if you don't understand something, it knows that you don't understand it and explains what's different. You hear from doctors who are saying like, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to a world where I try to make diagnoses without first inputting the symptoms, the test results, whatever. You hear from creative people who are like, this is now an indispensable part of my creative workflow. I'm never going back. And I don't know, I'd say like most of the startup energy, most of the developer energy I see is now trying to figure out what to do with these technologies. This is going to permeate everywhere. I think it'll happen fairly quickly, and I think it'll be great.
I think the thing that excites me that Sam talks about here, at least at the moment, is how easy it is to find relevant information, how much time that saves. So I asked ChatGPT what Mark Zuckerberg had to say about AI, because I was kind of interested in that. And what it told me was that he has discussed the potential of AI to improve productivity and efficiency in the workplace. He has mentioned the possibility of AI systems assisting humans in their work, such as suggesting relevant information or automating repetitive tasks. However, he also recognises the need to address the impact of AI on employment and ensure a smooth transition for workers. So the general vibe I get from this research that I've done is that AI has a huge potential to help people in their day-to-day jobs and work and improving efficiency and productivity. However, there is a big element that's still to be done, which is how do we ethically integrate AI into the world? One thing I think you can compare this sort of time-saving aspect of AI to is the integration of time-saving devices into the world. Obviously, it was thought back in the day, like last century really, that the introduction of all these time-saving devices would mean that we have just loads more leisure time, and that the main issue we'd face is that humans would have too much leisure time on their hands and they'd get bored. Now, obviously that has not happened. And the way I see it is that AI will be a similar sort of thing, in that it will create more time for people, it will make things much more efficient. And the hope is, I suppose, that you then spend that extra time doing more enjoyable or interesting work. My sort of hope, I guess, from what I've seen, is that maybe it would help us to be able to do the same amount of work but in less time, so that people can have more time to rest, more time to do other things that they want to enjoy, maybe everyone moving to 4-day work weeks. So I hope this gives more of a general flavour of what AI could do for the world of work. There are loads of specific tools that I could have talked about, but there are loads of other videos about that. When I was researching this area, the number of videos on AI is just completely overwhelming, so this is definitely not a comprehensive review on AI and how it will affect the future, but I hope it gives you a little bit of a flavour. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. As always, all the links will be in the description for the videos that I've used within this video. But thank you for watching, and see you next time.